I first saw her on the observation deck of the joint Terran-Rilori research station drifting in the amber twilight above the clouds of Gliese 581d. She stood alone, tall and willow-slender, her skin an opalescent teal that shimmered beneath the station's artificial daylight. The Rilori call that hue the color between dawns, but to me it looked like the sea my grandfather fished, the sea I'd left behind when I signed the Interstellar Cultural Liaison contract. I was so new to interspecies protocols that I forgot to look away until she flicked those silver, almost luminous eyes toward me. Her features were elegant, almost avian. High cheekbones flowed into delicate ridges along her temples where feathery sensory filaments trembled. The handbook had warned, avoid sudden breath or heavy motion. You might shout at them without meaning to. I must already have shouted, because her filaments quivered in blatant confusion. "Why do you keep staring at me, human?" she asked in impeccable Terran standard. Every syllable rolled like distant thunder underwater. Heat climbed my neck. I muttered something about the beauty of the view, a half-truth she accepted with a warrior's courtesy. Then she turned back to the stars. I retreated, chest buzzing with mortification, and with a fascination too dangerous to name. Middle. Weeks passed in the station's maze of flex tunnels and humming bulkheads. Our mission was straightforward on paper. Rilori engineers needed human assistance recalibrating a gravitational lens array that monitored a rogue black hole inching toward inhabited space. As cultural liaison, I drifted between teams translating equations into metal and light, smoothing every misunderstanding, like reminding Terrans that sustained eye contact for Rilori felt as intimate as a caress. No staring, I repeated to myself. Yet Isha-Loreen magnetized my senses. On the fabrication deck she moved with decisive grace, four-fingered hands conducting drones that extruded superconductive lattice like ink in zero-G. When she solved a tensor problem no one else could crack, her crest pulsed violet, bioluminescent waves rippling across the ceiling. I longed to applaud. Instead I swallowed the impulse and recorded another diplomatic note about exemplary cross-species collaboration. A sudden accident changed everything. A micrometeor punched through an external panel, venting atmosphere and nudging the lens 2 degrees off axis, enough to imperil 4 colonies if we failed. Work became triage. I found myself in an EVA suit beside Isha-Loreen, tethered to the armature like beads on a string while plasma welders spat blue fire into darkness. Over comms I learned the poetry behind her clipped efficiency. She spoke of Rilori legend, lovers who met on bridges of light between moons, and of the warrior's oath forbidding retreat while a single life remained at stake. She asked about oceans, about the taste of salt wind. I told her more than protocol required. Stars turned overhead while we worked and talked. When a shard of debris clipped my suit and my tether snapped, her quick hand clamped my wrist before the void could claim me. "I have you. Trust the line between us," she murmured, voice low and urgent. Medical cleared me with bruised ribs and a mandatory 36-hour rest. Isha-Loreen arrived at my quarters with a carafe of Aliai's nectar, a Rilori restorative. Sharing it bound the giver to safeguard the receiver's life until the next full orbital eclipse, a fact the handbook mentioned only in footnotes. Our eyes met for a heartbeat. Lightning seemed to course through my nerves. I drank. After that, rumor blurred with reality. Crew whispered that the commander and the liaison were inseparable. We weren't. Duty devoured every hour. Lens recalibration devoured every night. Yet on the edge of vision she was always there, or I was always searching. During shift change I'd catch her watching me, head cocked, unreadable. My pulse spiked every time. Still I kept silent. The night before final calibration, the cultural database pinged me. Tomorrow was High Ritual Day, the silence before the union, when Rilori let gesture speak instead of words. Terrans were advised to respect privacy and limit chatter. At simulated dawn I found Isha Lorene in the arboretum amid spiral-leaf trees, crest lowered in ritual hush. Motes of bioluminescent pollen drifted like stars around her. She extended her palm. I laid mine against it, feeling the feather-light tremors of her sensory field ripple across my skin like music from another dimension. She closed her eyes, and in that silence I felt everything I dared not say. That her laughter threaded through my dreams, that her name had become the shape of home. The klaxon shattered the hush. A coronal mass ejection had erupted from the system's star, racing toward us hours faster than projections. It would skew the black hole's apparent position. If we left the lens untouched, it might amplify the singularity instead of mapping it, dooming the colonies we meant to protect. We had minutes to overhaul algorithms we'd spent weeks refining. Ending. Chaos gripped the command deck. Controllers blazed red. Engineers barked numbers. I submerged myself in the AI core, feeding it a new prediction matrix while Isha Lorene led the physical realignment of mirror segments. The Relori value calm, humans value speed. Together we forged a hurricane of orderly improvisation. Then the CME's radiation spike fried half the station's thrusters. To stabilize the array, someone had to manually reposition an external actuator, exposed to incoming particle hail. My EVA clearance was still suspended. Hers was not. She volunteered before I could open my mouth. My protest died half-born. Then I remembered the Aliai's nectar and its implicit vow. She was bound to safeguard me. Nothing bound me but choice. I seized a secondary suit and followed her through the lock before anyone could object. Outside, the star glared like a wounded ember, flinging green auroras across the void. We braced on opposite sides of the actuator arm, voices thin under static. "Synchronize," she ordered. "On my mark, tilt 5 degrees. Metal groaned. A hail of charged particles splashed over us, crackling against shields. My suit's display flickered. Hers absorbed more, built for different biology. I heard her breathing, shallow, quick. "Radiation threshold approaching tolerance," she warned. "1 more degree," I shouted. "Almost there." We heaved. The actuator slipped into the green zone. Telemetry chimed success, just as a final surge slammed us. Her suit alarm howled, and she sagged against the arm, crest filaments fluttering weakly. Training screamed evacuate, but something deeper overrode it. I clipped my tether to her harness and hauled, muscles burning. The lock's lights winked through radiation fog like distant lighthouses. I talked non-stop, telling her about Earth sunsets, about the taste of rain, confessing that I had stared because I loved her, because across the gulf of species, her presence had rewritten my understanding of desire. Her eyes opened, silver storm cloud dark. "Human," she whispered. "The word for your feeling." I did not know. "You know now," I said, dragging us into the lock's embrace. Decantam seals hissed. Medtechs whisked her to xenobiology bay. Days blurred. Cellular boosters, regeneration baths, whispered updates through sterile glass. I sat outside, telling stories to the humming air. At last the barrier faded to a translucent veil. She stood inside, fragile no longer, crest glowing violet.